got our force. Now let's assess our trips here, and it's a mixed force. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. What did they say on Chernobyl, that great miniseries, right? It's not great, it's not terrible. Manage our fleet here, and we've got all these extra ships. We're gonna have to just sell some of these ships here. We don't need this many, although the big ones will keep, right? We definitely could use 2 or 3 big ships here to give to your companions. Your companions will acquire them. They'll take them from battles you win, but of course when you get captured, like our big naval battle, you've got to rebuy all these ships. So the good news is we're printing dinars. We've just absolutely loaded these big battles. You get Bannerlord. It's becoming easier and easier to get rich at this stage. Most people don't have money problems, and that's even without smithing. And look at this, right? There's a Drakkar. Beautiful. We'll take the Drakkar. So that's 6. That's probably good. And then this guy can take a couple. I generally run over. You know, I run 1 or 2 ships over because it seems like you get larger capacities, larger troop capacity. And even though you're a little slower on the ocean, right, having that larger troop capacity, as we showed in that big battle, even though we lost. Of course, the battle I'm talking about was, I guess it'll be a couple episodes ago now. Yeah, so minus 0.6 for our speed, but we're not worried about that. We want to be robust here in case we run into a large fleet. A bunch of Nords come our way for round 2. We can give them the business here. Now, we still got to be careful with it. We can't handle 1900 again, but we would try 1000 all day, right? Hagar the Horrible here. And we'll do a little intro here. Welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. You are watching our Sturgian playthrough, version 1.4, Hagar the Horrible. And we've got shit happening and alliances. I didn't even know they had an alliance. Our enemies here are allied against us. And most of Calradia hates our character. We've been doing everything from executions to massacring peasants, sacking cities, and eliminating fishing skiffs. We've been having a good time in this campaign. We're basically at war with all the different relevant kingdoms. And I think even though it doesn't make any sense, we're going to leave it like that, right? Unless there's something, maybe a certain instance where it makes sense for us to have peace, maybe we'll ask for peace or accept peace. But I think we're just going to roll happy-go-lucky in this campaign. Try to cause some carnage. And we're looking for battles, right? We're looking for interesting things to showcase. The differences in 1.4, shipboard combat especially. We're going to look for some combat against the Nords. And we're going to try to flesh out a Sturgian force. So it makes sense that we would take a Sturgian city or 2. I know I've been kind of vacillating with our army here. But we're just trying to get a sample here. We're trying to give you guys some gameplay to either inspire you or to show you things that might interest you or entertain you, or also, right, things where you guys can give us feedback here to help our game as well. Of course, a lot of the stuff that we share with subscribers, share with viewers, we've learned from other people who visit the channel. So we got some warfare here. It looks like a couple of our enemies are fighting each other. I wish they were all fighting us, right? That way they would just send endless hordes our way. And of course, they're all saying peace, but we're not giving them peace, right? Middle finger up in the air as we sail by their coast. There's Battania here. There's the Nords. The Nords own a lot of territory in this campaign. I think that is good. And look at these mother effers. You know where they're going. They're going to Savfk. I don't think so. You've been spotted, Battania. Surrender or die, right? We're definitely going to take this force on. Now, that's interesting. They have 48 light boats, and I just got a little sinking feeling in my stomach here. They can't win. If they have light boats, they have three medium-sized boats and a bunch of fishing skiffs. And I guess we get worn down here in multiple battles, but I don't think so. We'll see. They might even run. I don't know how this is going to work. We're definitely going to fight here, though. And it looks like they're engaging us. Our luck has run out. You got a bunch of little rowboats, dude. We're going to smash your rowboats to pieces. He's got 51 ships, but he doesn't have any big ships. So That's interesting. And I must say here, in case it's already changed, they are adding more ships to Battania, but they're not in the game at this stage. You might be watching this after the update is live. The dog ship, the Battanians have a different ship with like 2 layers and stuff like that. They don't have them. I've already been to a Battanian port, Carbansith, and they did not have them. I don't know for sure, I guess, that there are no dog ships, but I don't think they're implemented in the game. I remember the patch notes saying it's custom battles only. So I think this Battanian force is fucked. And look at look at the power bar. Man, that's about as rough as it gets. And so we don't have to be very tactical here, I think. I think we can just apply blunt force. I mean, look at our fleet. God, we have basically 8 heavies. And of course, this is sort of the natural gravitational pull that players are going to get yanked with this current system. Because look at it this way. If you had 50 ships and you could attack our 8 ships, you might win. You just swarm all the ships, and every ship has 4 or 5 boats all boarding it and tying us down and shit. You know, the boats would get stuck and they might be able to kill us, but it's 8 at a time, right? So actually, this is going to highlight one of the weaknesses still of this system. I hadn't really thought of this. And I don't think most armies will have all light boats like this. But this Battanian force has no chance. And I'm actually wondering how much of this will show you guys. If this gets really repetitive, we'll just do some editing. We can make sure our armies are set here anyways. These settings will stay at least through all the different battles. And we've got a really good force for this. Not only do we have 2 Drummonds, but we have 4 or 5 other big carrier boats. And then we got like an intermediate sized boat. It's full steam ahead here. We'll quote David Glasgow Farragut at the Battle of Mobile Bay. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. And we're gonna wreck some shop here. We got fucking 3 fire catapults, I think, so maybe we'll have to tell a couple little historical anecdotes here, because this is going to be a throttling. Unless that power bar is really deceiving, but they just don't have a lot of troops, right? They literally have, I don't know what size boat they are, Western galleys or something like that. These Battanians are going to get shattered. And the good news is it's going to be a nice little upgrade process for our fleet. We're going to be able to upgrade rapidly here. We'll do some fireballing. And we'll see what we do here. Yeah, I mean, they're just absolutely cooked. And I just killed half their crew, right? Because they don't have 200 troops. They got a rowboat. Literally looks like a rowboat. I just set their shit on fire and killed their lord. Have another one, you fuckers. And they're boarding us, which is very much like Somali pirates trying to board an aircraft carrier. Surrender, United States military, right? And it's just get absolutely ripped apart by state-of-the-art weaponry. Look at these dipshits here, just lined up, trying to throw javelins. And they're just shredded. Of course, Hagar the Horrible is anything but horrible at ocean combat. Now, especially that his mariner skill is good, this guy is basically, he's the original lethal weapon, right? Danny Glover and Mel Gibson have nothing on this guy. This guy is a terrorist on the ocean. He leaps over small ships. His javelin skill is lethal, and his hand-to-hand combat is unmatched, right? As we rock these Battanian forces. They're like almost all dead already. I'm looking around here, and all you see is green death spam and the enemy just getting shredded. Well, I think we will just keep narrating here. I mean, they got 21 guys over there. Well, they're doing a little bit of damage. But we have skirmishers, we have archers. And what's nice about this, I guess, the flip side, because this is, you know, it's an unbalanced part. I don't know how else to put it. Right? The bottom line here is our enemy has 0 chance to win. Imagine being on the other side. They have about half, it seems like about half the forces that we do too. That's why the power bar looks like that. Because they can only get 8 ships on the water. You know, it's like they're hugely outgunned in this situation here. So just try to wrap this battle up here. Do a little bit of Mel Gibson, or we're gonna do a little bit of swimming here, like in Waterworld. 7, 6, 5, 4, and they just get liquidated. And we have 100 upgrades out of that too. So our army just gets a lot stronger. Our troops roar with approval. We won! Their shit's on fire and all carcasses. I wonder how this is going to go. This is interesting. 51 upgrades for just our army alone. And 250, 270. Does that mean we're going to have 5 or 6 waves here? We'll see how much of this we record. So I don't know what the answer is for this, right? Like if I was literally invited to the table talking to Tail Worlds, look at this. They barely lost any of their troops. Are they going to come again? Oh yeah. They're like excited to engage us. Well, I guess we'll just bloody their nose here 2 or 3 times. And like I said, if this is just ultra boring, I'll do a little editing and tell you fellas that, right? We'll try to minimize your pain here. Because no challenge, right? Absolutely none. This Battanian force can't win. Now, ironically, the power bar's closer this time. I don't know if that's what it's going to look like on the water. I don't think so. You know, when they don't have any big boats, and that's part of the problem with Battania. Basically, Battania is like they're helpless on the water. It's like the Spanish Armada in 1588 against the English. They have no chance. So I guess we could try this just to level even more troops. I'm kind of trying to get creative here as to how to make these battles interesting. But unless I'm wrong, again, the power bar is going to look really, really bad. Yeah, that's really bad. So we don't need really to do any fluff here. And even with the clicked to low level troops for our unit prioritization just doesn't mean a thing. So maybe we'll blast right through these. Maybe we'll do a little bit of editing here. And I don't know huge amounts of naval stories that are funny or interesting or stuff like that. I did extensive reading in preparation for the War Sales campaign, partly because I'm a history nerd here and I figure we might as well try to get a ram on here because this battle is going to be over and I'm just going to ramble some historical anecdotes. I do remember reading, right, that naval battle is very uncommon historically. Also, there were all kinds of things that are very different about actual naval battle compared to War Sales naval battle. For example, almost every day in the medieval era, ships would go to shore for water alone, right? You have to remember these guys are rowing, especially if they were in the Mediterranean where it's 90 every day or whatever. These guys would be pouring sweat. And I remember reading basically a journal of a guy who clearly knew what he was talking about, saying that the crews needed about 4 liters of water a day, right? Over a gallon of water every day because they're pouring sweat, rowing, right? These guys are working their ass off, and it's not like they have a sun umbrella, right? They're getting baked. So they couldn't really, go for weeks on end. Now, there were exceptions. I don't, when I give these anecdotes, this is from a book I read, just understand that it's not talking about every single instance of naval warfare. What it's basically referring to, those is the broad majority of times in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th century where you would have naval warfare that sort of resembled what we have in War Sales. Every day, the ships were going to the shore, right? Virtually every day. And that was at a minimum to get water and then oftentimes for food. They didn't have a refrigerator. It's not like they had huge amounts of food they could procure. The ships were lightweight. They were warfaring ships. They were not complex ships designed for weeks at sea and stuff like that, like we have in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, right? You can't think of these like the ships of the line that the English had and stuff like that. What's also really interesting, and of course War Sales, it doesn't do that, is there was no ramming of ships after about the 7th century. In other words, the time frame that this was set at, War Sales, 1100 or whatever. Oh shit, we're gonna crash our own boat here. Slow down, boys. The rough time frame here, there was basically no ramming because the ships were reinforced in a way that ramming was totally ineffective. And we are ramming our own ships. We're gonna have more troops went flying everywhere. That was like an episode of Dumb and Dumber right there. We botched this, just being careless. But I've got a bunch of Battanians here to melt. And of course, this battle was never in jeopardy. I'm just going to finish that anecdotal point. So ships stopped ramming basically in about the 6th or 7th century. I think the book said there's not a single verifiable instance. Look at this lord here. Smile for the camera. where ships were still ramming by the 11th century. And of course, it's a good example of where I think it's perfectly fine for the game to not be historically accurate. That's always a balance that games like this are trying to find, right? That balance between, because I talk about it all the time. We don't want true realism. We don't want to have to go to town every day and go to a village and beg them for water. Right? You don't have to load up your ship full of fresh water, right? You just kill shit, right? You don't have to deal with all the... There's no latrines on the boats, right? We don't have to worry about getting constipated and stuff like that. So realism out the window sometimes. But it's interesting to know the actual history behind it here. Is this Battanian force is just liquidated. And don't know if we'll show you too many more of these. I mean, we're not even getting dented. We have 568 troops, and that's after losing 100. Did we really have 660? I guess to start. Huh? I guess so, huh? That's about the largest army I've ever had at sea. We must have the right perks, the right mariner, and stuff like that. 660. Wow. That is quite the fleet. And now they look like they're crashed up against the rocks here. I guess we can go for the kill here. They lost a lot of troops. They're down about 800. But still, theoretically, over half of their boat is... And I think this guy ran. Yeah, I must beg my leave, right? So this guy now is straight running. I wonder if we could just auto-resolve. It's tempting. Light ships gain major... Huh. Let's try one more battle here. I don't want to suffer 300 losses in an auto-resolve. This is our only army, right? And we've taken our whole garrison from Savfk. Let's just do a really quick power slamming here. We can go straight at them. And we'll do... I've told it before, but it's been a little while. The David Glasgow Farragut quote. Most people are familiar with the quote, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." Well, that comes from the American Civil War. There was a siege of Mobile Bay, or the attack of Mobile Bay. It was Union forces trying to penetrate a protected, defended bay by the Confederates, where they had a series of forts. And then I think Mobile Bay was either a really large fort or a small city. And the Americans were trying to push ships through between a bunch of forts and stuff like that, and trying to basically assault the place. But there were mines, what we would call mines today. Back then they were called torpedoes here, as we get a good ram. It says a weak ram, but that's exactly what happens, in my sex life there. And my wife still says it's a weak ram, so I don't know. Our opinions differ on that a little bit. Didn't feel weak to me. But... So the Union ships got stuck, and one of them blew up. Basically, the Confederates had all sorts of, basically things to slow down the Union forces. The Union ships, there was like 15 or 20 ships trying to push through to get to the port. And one of the ships blew up. It hit a Confederate mine. Back then they called those torpedoes, right? Oddly enough, like an explosive floating bomb was called, or torpedo here, and I might work my way into a loss here, or at least get my character knocked unconscious if I'm not careful. But God, is this guy this guy's a complete savage of the ocean. I mean, I don't know if I've ever had a character, even the ones that were higher level, I don't know if they ever felt this powerful before. One of the Union ships sinks. The other ships get stalled out, and there was a report basically that came to the flagship that was commanded by a guy named David Glasgow Farragut. He was known as I think it was called the Flag Command or something like that. Is basically, he's the general of all the ships. And someone supposedly said there are mines, that there are torpedoes. One of our ships, it blew up. That's why we're stopped. And he was older. He was an impetuous, very aggressive captain, and he issued that famous statement. There are torpedoes, sir. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, and they blasted their way into Mobile Bay, took Mobile Bay from the Confederates. It was a very decisive and critical battle for the Union Army, and so all of that long rambling story was to give you that quote. Today we use that term kind of for when people have like a bravado or like a reckless attitude towards something. It's still used in our modern lexicon, and I think that's a cool thing. you know, even today we're referencing these historical incidences. There's a lot of shit that's like that, right? Everything from he doesn't have a pot to piss in. That was a term. I don't know exactly when it came from, but they would piss in a pot and take it outside and dump it outside. And when people were really poor, they literally didn't even have a pot they could piss in. They just had to go outside and pee. There's all kinds of sayings that are part of our lexicon today that we don't even think about, that either have historical precedence or something like that. Anyways, I'm a math and history nerd. I like referencing shit like that. And oh shit, they're gone. Okay. I was wondering why we were getting all those prisoners. So that whole force, and I like that actually. We didn't have to fight them down to the last, 7 rowboats. I don't know how many ships they had when they collapsed there, but it looks like their whole army collapsed in that last battle, which is good, right? I think you could still argue that they need to fix that. You can't have 48 little skiffs fighting a huge armada of long ships 8 on 8. It's just not realistic. To put it in battlefield terms, it would be like if they limited it to your best 8 troops, and you bring 4 Huskarls, and 4 Skjoldbrestirs, and they have 10,000 troops, and you just destroy their whole army. Numbers should mean something. And I'm going to go to Revyl here, but I don't think we'll chase it to the south end. I want to go to the north end of Revyl here, because then we can jump on our ship, potentially defend Savfk, but we can also go to Greta's Fjord. You know what? My spidey senses are up here. I think I mentioned it an episode or 2 ago. Let's see if it's accurate again. The Vlandians, 46,000. We're making 1 million dinars every day. It's coming from caravan and party income. That comes from those big battles. Our troops have raided. I mentioned this before, though. Usually a village being raided like that, the Vlandians are raiding a village. I bet they're on their way to Savfk right now, right? The precursor often to a siege, not always, but the precursor is a raid. And then the next thing you know, your drums, in fact, there they are. And so it sort of proves that theory, right? It's not always, right? Sometimes the enemy doesn't have a force coming. They'll just raid your village because that's all they can do is guerrilla warfare. But a lot of the times in Bannerlord, it seems to me that your raid is the precursor to a large fleet or a large army heading to your city to attack it. So another little tidbit there. We'll try to give you guys some useless information here combined with some useful information, right? We'll try to mix the two. We'll give you worthless quotes and potential things that'll help you in your campaign. I got to talk here for an hour, right? We're going to play for a couple hours tonight, and so you got to try to. Some guys just don't talk. I listened to some other people play through and stuff like that, and I watched one guy and he didn't say a word for 3.5 minutes. So everybody's got a different style, and this is mine. Now you might be wondering, what the fuck am I doing here, right? We're giving up critical troops before a big battle. I don't think there's any jeopardy of losing this battle, and I'll explain. I'm gonna take a peek at what we're facing here, right, by going up to it and just saying attack. In a situation where they're sieging a city, you can usually leave. Not always, but usually. And if it doesn't look good, in other words, if the power bar looks really lopsided, what we'll do is wait. We'll just wait until the garrison is involved, and then we'll get those extra 300 troops. It's a good way to do it. And of course, we can also just run to these villages. 480. I guess we can take a peek. I mean, we've got 52 Sky God chosen, right? We've got the kind of army that can destroy a large Vlandian force. We've got Marines. We've got Marines galore, and I bet they're upgrading, right? We're getting upgrades. I didn't really even look at our companion upgrades, but our companion armies are upgrading too. And you know what? I don't think we need to try that, right? This is what I mean. We'll just wait. We'll just wait for the garrison here. If it was a little closer, we would have thrown ourselves in there. I don't need to have a Pyrrhic victory here. This is our only army. So we'll just hit these villages and wait for the battle of the city to start. We'll practice being silent here for the next 20 seconds. That's a curiosity to me. Everybody has a different perspective, and of course, feedback helps, right? You guys can always give feedback and say, hey, you don't have to talk as much. And some guys are like, don't talk as much during battle. I like to hear all the battle din and shit like that. So we'll try to figure out kind of a happy medium. I mean, obviously when you have hundreds or even thousands of people potentially watching, you're never going to make everybody thrilled about the gameplay. I got guys who say the music's too loud, the mic sucks, I talk too much, please stop swearing. You know, I can't be everybody's favorite YouTuber. Fortunately, there's a YouTuber out there for everybody, right? I like everybody else, I dig an ASMR YouTuber, whether it's Resonant or whoever. I go to other YouTube channels, and whether it's Bannerlord I'm watching or ASMR where some guy's with his dog out in the cabin in the woods in a snowstorm. That's the beautiful part about YouTube, is that there's virtually unlimited choices and opportunities to see material, to watch and learn from different people out there, right? I've done a lot of just technical work in my life, everything from fixing software with my wife's computer to fixing her car door from Google, right? Just going to Google, going to YouTube. It's amazing. You can practically become like an apprenticed electrician just by watching YouTube videos. It's pretty amazing, the knowledge and information that's out there. You can also probably get yourself killed or burn your house down doing that shit. So that little disclaimer in case somebody's son burns their house down, he said I could learn on YouTube. And we have a great army for this. I mean, I guess part of the reason I think this is a great army is there's not much cavalry. It's not a surprise. Guys who watch the channel on a regular basis know that I feel kind of an optimal army in Bannerlord is like 20% or less cavalry. Exceptions, for sure. There are some exceptions. I think if you're using the Asurai, you should have 30% at least cavalry. They have elite cavalry. Their Vanguard Ferris is elite. The Vlandians too, right? If you're not using Banner Knights, you're not using Vlandia, right? Doesn't mean that you know, you must use Banner Knights, but I think they're a clear asset in your army. Battanians, Sturgian cavalry, it's more marginal, right? Their Jav cav is pretty good. Of course, part of the reason we don't have cavalry is that we've been kind of in Nord territory for a while, right? We've been, you know, I've been sort of uncertain where to take this campaign. This is mostly just, I guess we'll just call it like scrimmage battles here, right? And this is actually a pretty potent force. I think we better play a little bit more carefully here. We can pull, there's a little bit of a ridge here I think we should pull over. That'll mitigate some of their crossbow fire. They have a very powerful army and it's mixed, which for me is the hardest army to deal with. A Vlandian mixed army is a pain in the ass to deal with. Partly because of those units I just talked about. The Banner Knight, especially under AI control, is a deadly unit. They couch lance a lot in a battle like this. And of course your archers are vulnerable. A battle like this, I actually wish we had about twice as many cavalry. So as soon as I tell you I prefer an army with less cavalry, I say I prefer more. We don't even have 10 or 20%. We have like 2% cavalry. Right? The Nords don't have cavalry at all. Obviously, if you've been following this, you know that our only locations that we've had are Nord Castle and a Nord City. We haven't had a Sturgian location in a while. We had Vlandian territory, but we never had a castle, which is where you get their noble units from. And we just didn't stay. You know? We didn't stay long enough to get a bunch of a bunch of Vlandian troops. Let's push these skirmishers here and then fire away. We still should be able to win this battle, right? We've got the right troop mix here. Archers and skirmishers are pretty deadly for cavalry. We've got a defensive square. We've got a defensive line. I think we can make this work for sure. And a lot of their cavalry is getting sucked up here by our defensive divisions. This is why it's so important to have defensive divisions, right? While our skirmishers are ripping it, our little square here is doing a good job of slowing down this cavalry. Meanwhile, we've got our shield wall line slowing down their charge. The right side here is a lot bloodier, right? They're definitely pouring through a lot of cavalry here, and they're starting to cycle charge. Generally, what I do when I see that is start to square more divisions. This 6th division, for example, you can just square them, park them back here, tighten them up a little bit. The archers can be pulled back a little. You pull back here to get away from the enemy crossbow. And their infantry here is fucked beautifully. They're attracted to the square. Now we can separate our 6th division, pull it, oh shit. thought I was going to get couch lance there. Pull it from the square. Flank the enemy here with this square. It goes from defense to offense, and then you open fire, right? And now we can just bore in here and load these guys up. They're all attacking our defensive units. Don't need you anymore, horse. Thank you. In we go. Now I just got to watch my 6 here to make sure I don't get couch lanced. And these guys are cooked. Embrace the silent side here. All right, so let's push in. Their crossbow is firing away at us, right? And they're trying to outrange us here. I don't think they're going to be able to. Right? Our archers have a lot more ammo than them. We've got Fiend Champs. We've got Sky Gods Chosen. We have more ammo. Yeah, usually in Bannerlord, what you're trying to assess is what advantage do you have over the enemy, and then how to maximize that, how to leverage it. In this case, I better get down here. There's a huge line of cavalry coming. I've got 2 squares following me here, but I'm right at the front. I'm gonna tip at the spear here. And this is a very effective, time-proven way to not get killed by cavalry. Just duck and put your big shield over your face. It's pretty hard to get killed in that situation. Right now we've got our 6th Division moving forward here. And the cavalry's a mess here, but here's my preference. Send the skirmishers to kill their sharpshooters and have everybody else focus on the cavalry. Basically, occupy their sharpshooters with a bunch of shields, and then while that's happening, we're going to have the guys behind me work on cavalry. We've got to bob and weave here a little bit. There's a bunch of archers here. None too smart, though. And now let's just do some distractionary stuff here, right? If you're on foot, this is a great way to immobilize a whole archer division. I mean, we're not stopping all of them, but we're going to have guys chasing us, and those that we don't kill, and we're killing guys, so we're killing guys and occupying them. They're chasing us around. That's a really good way to eliminate 15, 20 archers from the enemy force there. And we only took a couple big shots. Not too bad. Let's start reforming the lines here. What do we have? I can't really see. I need a horse. Sometimes you can't really see that well on foot. Archers. All right. I think what we got going on here? Here's what we can do. We could just push forward with these infantry divisions that are already on the enemy. Oh, they're regrouping. What you do automatically in a situation like this, they're regrouping 100 meters from your archers. Push your archers up. Even though they're sending cavalry in, get your guys into position to shoot. That way they have this ridge, and before the enemy gets set up, you're shooting them. Can get these guys in huge divisions. 4th, 5th, 6th, 4th, 5th, 8th. The 4th is almost out of ammo. They can probably just charge. The enemy here is doing a full regroup of troops. They're not routing, are they? They got cavalry moving up. You can never be sure in a situation like this. Half the time it seems like they're getting ready to charge you. This looks like these guys are just routed off the battlefield. It does look like this battle's over. Ah, you fucker. Man, that guy almost dropped me. We got those extra hit points though, right? 66, he took us to a sliver, but this game is over. That whole force just routed. That's like 500 Vlandians that just said to hell with that, which, you know what that means? We have a lot of troops left and this force got blown up. It seemed like we had a fair bit of loss, but I don't know. Of course, we had militia with us too, right? We had the garrison sallied out and we had militia. And we blasted these Vlandians. All right. We're getting some variety here. I like it. It's an unusual battlefield. Yeah, look at that. Only 100 and... That's actually a lot more death than I'd expected. You know what? I bet that... Look at it. It is. It's the militia. 67 deaths by the militia. 34 by the garrison. That means we only had 45 deaths for the whole rest of the army. So this is a very successful battle. We obviously lost a few good troops, but we just destroyed a large Vlandian force with pretty minimal losses to our main force anyways. And we're going to have to give up Savfk. Savfk is a real puzzle because once you take it, unless you own a bunch of territory around it, it's going to get attacked, and you either have to sit by it and babysit it, or put a huge garrison there, which we obviously can't afford to do. That would be the methodical way to play, is just sit here until we have an army of 1,500 with 800 in the garrison. Not going to bore you guys to death with that kind of stuff. And, that's something I have asked them to change, is either add more islands or make the islands closer to each other. Make them more strategically relevant, right? Savfk is almost kind of a hindrance. Yes, absolutely. You can reinforce it and protect it, but you're 4 or 5 days away from most other cities. So unlike, say you take Revyl, you're half a day or a day away if you're at Douglanis or if you're at Ostakam. If you take Revyl, well, Sibir and Varnovapol are like, not Revyl, but if you take Varcheg, you got Omor is like a day away. There's so many cities in the game that are close. Savfk is the opposite. And of course, it has value. I'm not saying it's worthless. I'm just saying that it is kind of limited, and it brings up a point that I keep asking Tail Worlds for, is more islands, right? We're getting greedy. It's very unlikely, I think almost in a certainty, that they're not going to add more islands, more castles, more cities, right? When I'm asking for stuff like this, it's just like when I asked my wife if we could have a threesome with Natalie Portman. She said, absolutely not. I said, well, what? I said, you can, if you had an affair with Brad Pitt, I'd be all right with it. We should be able to have an exchange, right? It seems fair. That reminds me of a funny joke. It's traveling around the internet. A husband and wife, they go to therapy. Therapist suggests that they get comfortable with their jealousy, right? Don't be too jealous. And so what the therapist recommends is that they both make a list of 5 people that the other person's okay with, if they have the opportunity to sleep with them, on the random chance, that they let their spouse do it, right? And so the wife came up with Brad Pitt and Matthew McConaughey and some other, and the husband came up with her sister, the neighbor, her substitute school teacher, and his wife was not happy with the list. The opportunistic guy lists a bunch of women that's very practical, very possible for him to have an affair with. The women not thrilled about that. All right, let's see here. We're going to head to another city, and we'll probably do a little bit of editing here. It's going to take a while. Yeah, I like this spot here. Let's do Revyl, right? Let's siege Revyl. There's a bunch of different reasons I want to do this. It irks me. There's no port here for the Sturgians, right? I wish Revyl was a port facing the north. Obviously, it would be very vulnerable to the Nords, but it would also spur a lot of naval battle because Revyl's not a port. Obviously, you're not getting any chance to have a naval blockade or anything like that. So we could take it, though. The advantage of taking it, of course, is it's a defendable city. It's not a great defendable city, but it's definitely defendable. And of course, it's going to give us Sturgian troops, and it's kind of close enough to the water. It's on this peninsula that there's a good chance to get water combat from here. And I think we'll go to Gretis Fjord after taking this, right? Or maybe Thronderlag is a long ways away. The Nord cities are just so far apart. It actually creates kind of a dead zone in the game. It's really hard to get battles in Nordland, right? There's a bunch of different reasons for that. A big one is just location, right? Why would the enemy bother dealing with the little castles when it can just take the rich cities, right? The castles are going to be the last thing to go, and by that stage, if you're in the Nords, you're probably not there when they take the castles. So the map is kind of awkward when it comes to stuff like that. I would have loved to have seen a few of the Nord cities way up a river, right, where they're a lot harder to reach. And information is power, right? You guys see that shit there? I saw it happening a second ago, and I realized that's an advantage for us. We know there's a huge Nord force nearby. They are sieging. We also know that they are busy, right? And Savfk is being sieged here. Let's try to get peace. Nope. Okay. That was a good example. I would have taken peace there just to keep Savfk for us, but the Vlandians want it. We'll give them their island here. So the Nords are sieging. What does that mean, right? Probably have 4 days, at least 3. I would say summer 12. I don't want to launch this siege much later than summer 12. Because they're busy, right? Because they're sieging, unless they break off their siege to defend here, we should be able to take this city before that large Nord force shows up to defend it. Obviously, if 1800 Nords roll up, we're going to have to leave. We'll probably flee. You know, we'll probably try to take off. And there's some forces coming. I wonder, I can't tell if that's from the army. Sometimes you can still see the city, you know, kind of from tilting the view here. Let's reserve these two. We'll launch these two here in a second and do kind of a quicker siege. We still want to try to destroy the enemy's counter siege, at least their fire catapults. But I'm in a little bit of a hurry right here. It's almost the evening of summer 11. I'm going to give this like a day. We're not going to be able to siege a wall down here. A day at most. So right about here. Let's see. We can take it to, I think we can get this siege tower up tonight. And they're moving. It says defending Revyl, right? What does that tell you? They're getting behind a Nord force. We got to go here. Hurry up. Build this fucking siege tower. We're about to be attacked. Of course, we could launch it right now. That's one of the unrealistic parts. When the enemy's on you, you shouldn't be able just to launch it. And, you know, the siege happens and the enemy just stands there and watches it. That's where the reinforcement system is so beautiful. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically a mod where if there was a Nord force right on top of us here and we launched the siege, in vanilla, we would just be able to have our, you know, good time with the siege. But with the reinforcement mod, that fucking force comes in behind you while you're sieging. It's one of the most dynamic mods in Bannerlord, period. Of course, the overhaul mods change the game more, but as far as talking about changing the feel of Bannerlord, the reinforcement mod, go get it, right? If you have a PC and you want to experience a whole new level of tactical difficulty, get that reinforcement mod. Of course, we have no mods for this, right? Guys are asking me what mods. It's in beta, right? Even though there are a few mod makers that have access to this, and again, as usual, I won't name drop. They haven't updated the mods yet for this. Tailworlds is literally changing this patch every few days, right? They're adding a hotfix or they're adding a feature, fixing a bug or whatever, right? So the mod makers wisely are waiting for some stability, and it feels like we're missing troops here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. First division up the ladders. Third division we got to enlarge in. Okay, shock troops, we'll leave them at the back to start. 5th, 6th, 7th is archers. We'll bring them up behind our infantry. Let's get a division here on the ram. We'll have to reassign those once the battle starts. We've got a fire catapult with some access to the siege ladders here. Probably a better angle here with the fire catapult. Actually, it's good at that spot. We can hit both targets. And it's another situation, right? I don't want to have 500 losses here. You auto sim this, or we might even lose if we just auto resolve. But if you just F1, F3 and you get butchered in a siege like this. You lose a lot of troops. They have, oh yeah, they do have one catapult. Damn. What's happening here? I can't move. The fuck? What am I hitting here? Alright, let's get these ladders occupied. And I got a bunch of Santa hat dudes here trying to guard this. The AI is doing a lot more of this. They're not putting very many archers on the walls lately. It's almost like the AI is learning from you know, the tactics we show on a regular basis. They put infantry, right? They're bringing a bunch of infantry, but there's not very many archers. I remember a day where the archers would be crawling all over the walls of Bannerlord, and maybe it's because they don't have a lot of archers, but it seems like the Sturgians, you know, there's big holes in the wall too. It seems like the Sturgians have hardly any, well, these are the Nords, but it seems like they have hardly any archers. Let's split a few guys here. We'll keep that 3rd division in reserve. The archers are up. It's going to take a couple minutes to get that siege tower up. We can give them some archer and skirmisher support. Damn, they're pounding our siege tower. We might have to go through the gate or those ladders. Let's see if it makes it. We got some great line of sight here. Oh yeah, there's a big thick clump of Sturgians here on the towards the siege ladders. Oh boy. Catch. Bam! I just melted a bunch of militia. Well, that's less bakers and shoemakers and whatnot for this city. We just killed a bunch of our artisans. Let's give them another volley. Of course, our horse. Man, they need pickets for horses. You should be able to tie your horse down. Let's see why Glairon Heavy Hand kills him. Damn beasts are unruly. Alright, siege ladder's almost there. There's a bunch of Nords there, but I don't want to hit our siege tower, right? Our siege tower will probably break with one hit, so I think we'll just stay focused here of the siege ladders. We're gonna hit some of our own troops, I just said. And our siege tower just got destroyed, so plan B. We're gonna have to go through... I think we'll try to go through the gate. When you have the ladders going, at least, those guys are already up on the wall. That means they're going to be pressuring the enemy. And now I really wish I had my horse. It's going to be a while to trudge over there. Now the enemy's trudging over too. We're going to have a log jam here. You can see their forces scurrying over. But we've got some forces on the wall there already fighting. In fact, there's some dipshits that's... Oh, damn it. There's some dipshits that are standing there. I'm not sure what those guys are doing up there. Fight! They're just standing there. Look at these guys. What are you doing? Charge. I know they're on charge.
Infantrymen, attack!
There they go. Okay.
Footmen, on move! Forward!
Let's leave those two divisions, pressure the center. They have a backup division as need be. We got troops going into the gatehouse. That's a good sign, right? Because those guys are going to be maligning the enemy rock throwers. That means the gate is going to be easier to go through. We'll be able to square and blast this gate too. We've got the right troops for it. We've got lots of crossbow, and these are remnants from just being in Vlandian territory. We don't have a lot of their banner knights because you get your noble troops from castles. But we have lots of crossbow. Of course, we have other crossbow too. We have also nautes. We've just got a really good army for this. Plenty of shields. We've got some tough Nord infantry. We've still got some decent Sturgian infantry. There's no rock throwers. And there's 150 troops here, but you just push past them. We're going to start spreading out here on the right of the city. It slants down this city to the right where the gate is, so you want to get uphill, right? Then your skirmishers can fire javelins downhill, right? So we want to go... Oh, shit. What the fuck was that? We want to go this way. Go. Get over here. How come I can't move? What happened to him? I just killed one of my own guys. I guess because there are so many enemy troops there. Oh, I'm getting pushed around. I'm not going backwards. I'm literally getting pushed up the stairs. You don't see this very often. I'm like caught in a stream here. A rip current. A Sturgian rip current. Be careful. It's very deadly to them. God, Hagar the Horrible, man. He's not Glairon Heavy Hand, but man, is he a fucking menace. He is very fast. His axe is laser fast. And it's probably similar spec, right? Of course, at this stage, he's not far from Glairon Heavy Hand. Now, we've got a bunch of enemy forces here jamming up the stairs. Now, I got archers coming up behind me very soon. We're going to have just a firing squad just drilling that militia down there in the courtyard. We've taken the enemy's walls here. Out of the way, Surf. We kick this guy right off the wall. Beautiful. We still got a lot of health, right? That's the other thing too. Hagar the Horrible takes a blow and keeps on swinging. Get into your hold there, peasant. God, he's a menace. All right, let's see if we can't backdoor these troops a little bit. The archers are just flaming from the walls. That looks beautiful. second can charge. Let's see if any troops made it over here. It doesn't look... Oh, shit. It's nothing but enemy forces. Alright, we better get out of here. Let's get down, in fact. I don't want to get shot by all those archers. These are weaker troops down here. We like weak troops. These guys are going to melt like fucking Vlandian butter. I mean, they insta-die. God damn. This guy's just a torrent to death. It's like a hurricane. Just everything dies. We can't stop it. We're all gonna... I mean, they're not armored. They're wearing like a nice, you know, suit that you would wear to church or something like that. And they're fighting a crazy axe murder. This is not advised activity. And his axe is so fast, and yet it's, you know, you can still cleave and kill 2 or 3 guys. It's just a sheer joy to play this kind of a character. And then he's got javelins. So if anybody blocks, right, you just chuck a javelin through. And God, that was a fucking hurricane of death, and this city fell fast. I mean, there's just nothing but corpses. Victory is ours. And that seems like a good spot to wrap up this episode.
We've been blessed.
Yeah, this is rolling right along in this campaign, and this is going to be a good citadel for us. Now we've got to expand a bit, right? We need 2 or 3 cities, we need 2 or 3 castles to start making a Sturgian force, and then I think we'll just have a massive Nord invasion here, right? Go straight into their heartland, and this seems like a good spot to break the episode. I am going to make multiple episodes tonight. I'm just going to give the exit right here. We'll take a bunch of Nord prisoners. Again, if you want to see more from this campaign, please subscribe or at least hit that like button. I appreciate you fellas. Thanks for watching and listening to me ramble about useless history facts and maybe useful Bannerlord information. Of course, this series, Hagar the Horrible, is going to continue another 5, 10, 15 episodes depending on the popularity. I appreciate, again, you guys for watching. We'll see what the enemy puts up with here. All right, let's just break these episodes right here.